G'day legends, there's some big news that played out this week that not a lot of people are covering. Dana White on the Shaq podcast and BKFC have an upcoming event, and Conor McGregor finally started filling in his role as one of the promoters of the BKFC and did a lot of press for them. We got to see the open negotiation that is happening between the UFC and Conor McGregor play out live in front of us on both sides. And quite frankly, considering that nothing has been going on this week in the UFC, I think it's an off week in the UFC this weekend. I don't think there's anything happening in Las Vegas at the Apex. There's no main event. There's no co-main event. There's nothing going on. So it's very wild to me that this news story isn't taking over the MMA media cycle. We're going to get into it and break it down and talk about exactly what it means. Let's go. Let's get straight into it. I've got my beanie on today, by the way. It's bloody freezing. So just let me get into me MMA guru zone. Let me get into my MMA guru vibe and talk about this right here. I do a live stream with a beanie on and people are like, oh, you're trying to be guru. I'm like, it's just cold. It's winter in Australia. Give me a break, mate. Anyway, right into it. So, number one, the thing to look at here is the interview that Dana White did with Shaq. Why do I want to bring this up? Because Shaq went up and asked Dana White straight to his face, Conor McGregor, Michael Chandler, what's going on with that? And Dana White gave his classic interview. Should we play a clip of the video first? Let's do that.
If Conor McGregor fights again, it's obviously a great fight. It's a great fight. Him and Chandler is a great fight too. Conor and Chandler's a great fight. There's a lot of fights out there for Conor. The Conor thing is, much like Ronda. I mean, if you look at Ronda, so many opportunities fell on Ronda because of who she was and her personality, her looks, everything that she had as baggage ended up being her downfall, right? It's just the money and everything else. Ronda went from living in her car to being so extremely wealthy that she doesn't have to work. She doesn't have to do anything. She's got a great life. She's got like 3 or 4 houses and great places and all these things. And Conor McGregor is 10 times that.
So Dana White gives his classic, well, he's got a lot of money. Now, what this is in our language, what I hear when Dana White says this, and you hear this line from Dana White so often when you watch MMA long enough, and I hear Dana White say, well, he's got a lot of money, and all my ears hear is he doesn't like the money we're offering him. The UFC are clearly offering Conor McGregor a certain amount of money to re-sign his contract, and Conor McGregor has quite rightly said no to whatever amount of money or whatever pay-per-view cut the UFC are offering him, and Dana White are coming back to us and putting the blame on Conor McGregor, saying, well, he's just too rich. He's too bloody rich to fight. He doesn't want to fight here. He did the same thing with Francis Ngannou. When Francis chose to leave the UFC, Dana would go and say, well, he just didn't want to fight the best guys. We have the best guys here. He just didn't want to fight him. That's Dana White's way of saying that the negotiations aren't going well and really giving us a reason as to why they're not going well. Now, why is this important? If you have watched any Conor McGregor interview this year, you have surely heard that Conor McGregor has got 2 fights left on his contract. With 2 fights left on his contract, that means he is dangerously close to the end of his contract for the UFC. But not only that, Conor McGregor surely has what is called a sunset clause in his contract. And a sunset clause is a certain period of time before the contract becomes null and void and Conor McGregor goes back to free agency. It should be around 5 years, and Conor McGregor should have signed his contract somewhere around the Dustin, Habib, Cerrone. Conor would have signed his contract somewhere around 2019 probably, which means it was either 2019 or 2020. Either way, we are getting very, very close to Conor McGregor just naturally phasing out of his contract and being able to walk away. Again, something that Francis Ngannou successfully did. The UFC gave us the story that they dropped Francis Ngannou because he was too difficult to work with. That is not true. That is not true at all. Francis Ngannou's contract sunsetted and he became a free agent, and the UFC could not re-up him because Francis didn't want to re-sign with the UFC. So the UFC got the MMA media machine into a spin and said that they were choosing not to re-sign Francis Ngannou. They would have loved to have signed Francis Ngannou, but they couldn't do it. And I think the same thing is happening with Conor McGregor. So the second half of this story is the Conor McGregor side of it. The Conor McGregor side of it is, I went ahead and bought into shares of BKFC. And another thing that is flying under the radar here is Conor McGregor bought into those shares and announced that after the fight was announced with Michael Chandler. So you had all of this back and forth with the UFC leading up to the Michael Chandler announcement. Then the announcement happened for UFC 303. Remember, Conor McGregor came out and said that he bought into the BKFC after UFC 300, I'm pretty sure it was, after it was pretty much set in stone that UFC 303 was going to be with Michael Chandler. So now you've got Conor McGregor, who is now a co-owner in a separate fighting promotion. And now we start to see the wheels in the timeline of events. Then we start to see the wheels fall off UFC 303. It goes into silence. And this story comes out about Conor McGregor's broken pinky toe. I am not sure if I believe the broken pinky toe theory anymore. I know the beanie should be made of tinfoil right now. I am not sure if I believe the theory anymore. I think that there are very serious contract negotiations going on between Dana White and Conor McGregor, where Conor McGregor can see very plainly that he is going to be able to give himself a far better deal over at BKFC, purely in the stock prices alone. If Conor McGregor buys into the BKFC at this level, and then he picks and chooses his own fights in the BKFC, just how Mike Perry has brought attention to the BKFC, Conor McGregor is going to bring attention to the BKFC, and the stock price is going to rise. Just by default, Conor McGregor is going to make himself more money with a rising stock price in the BKFC than what the UFC can pay him. Getting paid a salary from the UFC will never trump getting paid a portion of profits from a company that you are a share partner in. Coming out as a part owner of the BKFC gives him so much more incentive and so much more power that for the UFC to be able to counter negotiate that would be a phenomenal amount of money. And the problem is, with where Conor McGregor is in MMA at the moment, I do not think that the UFC can actually make that deal. What do I mean by that? I mean, Conor McGregor might ask for, say, $20 million a fight, or let's say $50 million a fight, or $5 million a fight, whatever it is. The X amount of money that Conor McGregor is going to be asking for in the UFC might not be, the profits on that fight might not be enough for the UFC. The UFC is a harsh business and always looks at profits first. And they might not be able to pay him the kind of money that he wants compared to the kind of profits that they're going to make on a Conor McGregor fight. Let's be honest, MMA fans. Conor McGregor versus Michael Chandler. What are our hype levels? Honestly. Personally, about a 6 out of 10. Like, it's great that Conor's back. I'm going to watch it. It's certainly better than the literal shit that is being pumped out this weekend. Sorry. It's definitely better than most fight nights that we're getting this year, right? Like, I'm a 6 out of 10 for it. But then after that, where is Conor McGregor going? Maybe a Conor McGregor versus a Max Holloway. Maybe a Conor McGregor for the BMF belt, which is just a fake WWE belt. It means nothing. But those are the kind of fights that could give me some hype. They would give me some hype. Now, what about this? Conor McGregor going into the BKFC and drawing in some of that celebrity boxing factor. Conor McGregor, BKFC versus Michael Chandler. Conor McGregor just sparking guys out and covered in blood all over his face and getting his face cut open and getting into wars at the BKFC. I'm a little bit more hyped for that. I'm not going to lie. Like, Conor McGregor in the UFC and MMA, I kind of think he just gets the shit kicked out of his legs and taken down. He sort of lost a bit of his hype, lost a bit of his vibe. You know, he's like Khamzat Chimaev. Like, you were this, now you're this. But Conor McGregor over at BKFC, there's a lot of growth there. There's a lot of room for expansion and a lot more excitement. So I do think it just naturally makes sense. Where we are right now between Conor McGregor and Dana White clashing against each other just does naturally make good sense. Conor's got 2 fights left on his contract. Dana White does not want to release Conor McGregor, especially before the upcoming TV deals are renegotiated and re-signed. But even so, point blank, he doesn't want to lose one of his biggest stars and money generators. Conor McGregor is a businessman and wants to get out of the UFC as quickly as humanly possible and get over to the BKFC. And I'm pretty sure that we have just seen that entire scenario proven to us and played out before our eyes this week. It's very odd that the MMA news cycle is staying very quiet about this. I would expect MMA media, and I mean the legit MMA media sources, ESPN, MMA, to actually come out with a story about this, Conor McGregor planning on leaving the UFC. That story is right there, waiting for someone with some sort of real integrity to go ahead and tell it. He's pretty much telling it to us. It's kind of huge news. The UFC could purposefully be icing out Conor McGregor. Last thing, Dana was asked multiple times at his most recent press conference, when is Conor McGregor going to fight again soon? And Dana said, I don't even want to talk about Conor McGregor till I know he's 100% healed. That is an icing out tactic from the UFC. Do you really think any competent doctor can't look at a fucking pinky toe and be like, yeah, 6-week recovery time, or however long it takes? Like, this isn't the most complicated injury in the world. It's a broken pinky toe. It's a broken pinky toe. I don't think it's a broken pinky toe at all. If it was a broken pinky toe, a doctor would be able to say X amount of time till it's healed, and then you would be able to go, right, let's double that amount of time and book a pay-per-view for then. But they didn't do that. Dana's just been like, I don't know, I don't even know when he's going to be able to fight. He's got too much money. I don't bloody know what's going on. We're not that dumb, Dana. We can see what's going on. Conor's got a better deal on the other side of the sheets, and he's going to go roll over and have fun with that. You're old news, Dana. You're old news in Conor's eyes. We can all see it, mate. That is my breakdown, my interpretation of what is going on between Conor McGregor and the UFC. Pretty big bloody news story. ESPN is definitely dropping the ball on this one. Last thing, Jesse on fire. You said that if Conor McGregor and Michael Chandler don't end up fighting at the Sphere, you've got to do something humiliating. Shave your head, mate. Time to shave your head. Time to go bald. We need bald era Jesse on fire, all right? You made a big call. It's screwed up. Time to sleep. You made your bed, mate, all right? So this is your punishment. Hashtag Jesse on fire shaves his head. Until then, that's it. So let me know down there in the comments, what do you think is next for Conor McGregor and the UFC? You all have a great day, and I will see you all in the next video.